In our next video tutorial, we're going to have a look at using section breaks in Word. So the first thing I need to do is get Word up and running, and I'm going to open up my example file there, section breaks example. Okay, so really basic document there. I've got a title and there is chapter 1. Now, just like on the previous tutorial, what I need is chapter 1 to start on its own page. I can do that very easily, of course, by pressing Control Enter, and chapter 1 jumps down to the top of the next page. Okay, however, this time, let's undo that. This time I want to do it in a slightly different way. Okay, this time I'm going to use a section break. Now section breaks, there's a variety of those, and the first one we're going to use is very similar to a page break. So I'm going to click where I want the break to go, head to the Layout tab, Breaks, and then down at the bottom here you can see section breaks, and there's a variety of different types of section break. So let's click Next Page, and chapter 1 jumps to the top of the next page, exactly the same as a page break. So what's the difference? Well, if I go back to the title, I can click on that title, and you can see down at the bottom that's page 1 of 8, and it's also section 1. Now, all documents have at least one section. When we use a section break, however, when I scroll down and click in chapter 1 there, you can see this is page 2 of 8. It is section 2. So as well as breaking our document down into separate pages, we can break it down into separate sections. Now a section can be one or more pages. Alright, so one section could be 5 pages. One page could also be broken down into multiple sections. Okay, now why on earth would we want to do this? Well, what I've decided is the title is going to sit on its own page there right at the start. However, I need the title to be in the middle of the page. Now, of course, I could just press Enter, 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 move that down. Okay, but now that I've made it sections, let's just zoom out on that a little bit so we'll see that a bit clearer. I can add a little bit of extra control. So I'm going to click in that section. I'm going to go to Page Setup, hit the Options button. Okay, and I'm going to go to the Layout tab. Page section here, vertical alignment, top. Now I want it centered on the page. And right down at the bottom, you can see that this change applies only to this section. And normally, of course, the section for the whole document, I could go for this point forward or for the whole document, but it suits me at this point to go for this section. Click OK, and that text is right in the middle of that page, and you can see chapter 1, however, still starts at the top of its page. It's a different section. Let's move down. We'll have a look at chapter 1. Actually, we've dealt with chapter 1. Let's go down to chapter 2. Okay, I'll click on chapter 2. You can see that chapter 2 is on page 3 of 8, so page 3 is an odd page. Now, whenever I insert a new chapter, it needs to start on its own page, but it has to start on the odd page. Okay, so it should be the page on the right hand side as I open a book up. Okay, so this again is a job for a section break. So I click where I want it to go, we go to Breaks, Section Breaks. So next page, we'll start that on the very next page. Down at the bottom, I can choose whether or not I want the next section to start on an even page or an odd page. Now we're currently on page 3, so the next odd page is obviously page 5. Let's give it a click. And chapter 2 then starts on page 5. Now it can seem a little bit odd, this. Okay, so if I scroll back up to the previous page, there's the end. I click it, and you can see this is page 3 of 10. Scroll down, no missing page, and we're straight to page 5 of 10. Okay, so the section starts on the next odd page. It doesn't show a blank page, okay, but we know there is one there, so that is another type of section break. Now I'm going to scroll back to the top. I've got a large paragraph here, and I need that paragraph to be in columns. Okay, so I'll click in the paragraph. I'm going to go to the Page Setup, group there on the Layout tab, Columns and 2. And you can see immediately what's happened. The whole section has changed to columns. Now when we switch to columns, it only applies to a particular section of the document, so you can see chapter 2 is still okay. Scroll back up. I didn't want the columns to apply to everything. Okay, so I'm going to go back. This time I'm going to use a couple of extra section breaks. So I'm going to click at the end of this first paragraph. Okay, and what I need to do is break that page down into its own separate sections. Okay, so edit the paragraph, breaks, and this is where the continuous break comes in. I'm going to insert a continuous break at that point. I'll just move that up. Okay, and I'm going to do the same down here, so insert, breaks, continuous. Now if I go back to home and click the show tab button, you can actually see where those breaks are. So this time the break doesn't go to a new page, it just breaks up the document into more sections. So if I click in the top paragraph, this is section 2, click in here, you can see at the bottom that's section 3, click there, and this is section 4. Okay, so when I change things, it only applies to the section that I'm in. So I'm going to click in section 3 there, and we go to layout, columns, 2 columns. Okay, and at that point, let's just move that down a little bit to make it look a little bit neater. Okay, we'll get rid of the extra detail, and just that paragraph, or that section rather, has been broken down into sections, so rather columns. Okay, so you can see there using section breaks does allow us a little bit more flexibility on how our document is laid out, and we'll be using section breaks a little bit more on future tutorials. Okay, I hope you found that useful. Look forward to seeing you on the next one.